If I lost every single language that I speak and I had to start from zero again, I wouldn't study a language in the same way most of the people do. Hello, my name is Daniel. I am a hybrid polyglot, and in this video I will show you my exact method that I have been using for more than a decade. Now I'm able to speak more than 10 languages, so it works. So, welcome to my channel and let's go! Like I said in my previous video, Spanish is my mother tongue. So, the very first language that I learned was English. But English was a really terrible nightmare for me. I didn't understand the language. It was totally different. I was already struggling with my mother tongue, and then English came, and it was so different. For example, the verb to write, escribir. I write, yo escribo. Okay, I understand. And then they told me, oh, if you want to talk in past tenses, you need to add a and d. So, okay, easy. I write it. No, why not? I wrote. But why? Oh, because it is an irregular verb. An irregular verb? What is this? Okay, I understand. It is irregular, it's different. I write, I wrote. But then suddenly I was reading something and the book was written by. Written? What is this? Yes, it's the same verb, but why do I have write, wrote, written? I couldn't understand how English language worked. So I decide, well, perhaps I don't understand how does this work, but if I do a lot of vocabulary list and I start memorizing all of this, I will be able to speak English. But spoiler, it didn't work. Of course, I wrote a lot of things: write, read, can, sleep, eat, and so on. But at the end, all this information was on the notebook, not in my head. But the rules were changing as well. For example, the most common one is the verb to be. I am, you are, he is. Okay. I was, you were, he was. But suddenly it came a phrase like, if I were taller. If I were taller, but why? In theory, I should say, if I was taller. No? So, yes, it was a complete mess. Even the prepositions. For example, in Spanish, we say thinking in. But in English, the correct preposition is thinking about. So everything was so different, so crazy that I couldn't understand what I was doing. Spent a lot of years learning English in this way. That's why I wouldn't try to learn a language in this same way again. Because of my terrible experience with English, I tried something different with my second language, with German. So I create this 6-step method to learn languages. Step number 1: understanding your own language. I know it sounds really strange. Why, if I want to learn another language, I have to learn my own language first? Well, yes. I discovered this with a German teacher. She was a wonderful woman, but I had the same problems with German than with English. But she told me, okay, this works like this in the same way that in Spanish. Oh, okay, interesting. We have actions. She presented me clearly the timeline. Here's the present, here's the future, here's the past. Perhaps we have another past, and there are actions that keep going and other ones that have finished. Oh, okay, I understand that. And when we want to talk about actions that could be, we have like in the middle between the future and present. Okay, I understand that. So I start studying my own language, Spanish. Okay, how many tenses does Spanish have? 1, 2, 3, man. Okay, how do we conjugate the verbs? Oh, we change here, we keep the stem of the verb, we change the ending. Okay, I understand that. So if I can make a comparison between German and Spanish, oh yes, actually it's working. Why? Because even though the languages are really different, we are all humans. That means that we want to express basic things and we want to communicate experience that are normal for all of us. For example, drink water, to sleep. So if you learn that there are patterns between languages, it is easier to learn a new language. So the first thing I did, okay, I will study how Spanish, my mother tongue, works, and then I start learning German properly. And actually, this was a huge miracle because my brain started working like, oh, look, now we have something in common. So we can build under this basis. So the first thing is to learn how does your mother tongue works. It doesn't mean that you must learn everything in a really complex way, but it is good to learn how the basics of your language work. Number 2. Now that you already know how does your mother tongue work, do the same with your target language. What do I mean? Oh, Daniel, how can I learn something that I have never learned? Well, that's true. But now we have a lot of tools. We have internet, we have ChatGPT, and so on. So what do I do? First, I search for the structure of this language. What do I mean? How many tenses there are? How do we use the adjective? Do they use adverbs? Do they use grammatical cases? How does the syntaxes work? For example, in English we say I have a car, and in other languages perhaps it is car I have or something like this. So first I look how does the structure of this new language work and how it looks. So I can start making a comparison between my own language and this language. For sure, there are some patterns. Of course, there are other ones that are totally different. But when you know the other language structure and your own language structure, you can make a comparison between these two languages. Number 3. Now let's start a comparison between your mother tongue and your target language. Of course, we must look for similarities. For example, cognates. Those words that are almost the same in both languages. For example, Spanish and English, information, información. Oh, pretty easy, right? Let's look the structure. I have been, okay, here I have a auxiliary verb. Oh, in Spanish I do also have an auxiliary verb. Oh, interesting. It's the same structure. Let's see how do I use the verbs. Let's see how do I use the adjective. The car is red. El carro es rojo. Oh, here we have a difference. we put the adjective in a different position. Let's look for fake friends. For example, in Spanish we have actualmente, and in English we have actually. Oh, I think it's the same, but no. Actually in Spanish mean en realidad, but actualmente means in English nowadays. I'm gonna see what do they have in common and the main differences. So we're not longer starting from the basis because we already know something. And this makes things easier to learn. Number 4, the Pareto principle. What is this? This is also known as the 80-20 rule, and basically it says that 20% of your effort will give you 80% of your results, and vice versa. 80% of your effort will give you just 20% of your results. How do we use this powerful tool when we are learning a language? If you try to learn everything, to memorize everything, you will just get the 20% result. But if you pick the most important topics, the most frequent words, you will start speaking. For example, you can look on internet, give me the 100 most used languages in my target language. Okay, I already have these 100 words. So now I can start building and creating structures with these words. Please do not saturate yourself, do not saturate your mind with useless words. You must define why are you learning a language. For example, if you want to go to the university in another country, okay, I will learn everything about this specific topic, but you don't need like vocabulary about the farm. It's okay. But if you want to work in a farm in another country, okay, now it's the moment to learn farm vocabulary. So pick the words you actually need and forget about the others. And start creating structures that you use in a comfortable way. What do I mean? There's, however, nevertheless, and really fancy words like this, but you can learn but. Okay, it's not the most elegant word, but it is useful. So pick things that are easy for you, for remembering, and just start using it. And the same, we can use the Pareto principle with grammar versus speaking. It is wonderful to learn grammar, but if you just focus on grammar, you won't progress that much. So 20% grammar will give you 80% of speaking. So let's make a summary. You must speak the most important things, the most important words, and then you should start speaking and practicing. That is how this works. Number 5. Now that you already know what you have to do, we need to solve the question, where do I learn the structure of a language? Where do I learn the most useful words? So here it is really important to find the proper resources. Perhaps a book, on the internet, ChatGPT, perhaps a friend, perhaps a teacher. It depends on you. But it is really important to find the correct resource. For example, in my case, without my German teacher, I wouldn't be able to teach myself languages because she gave me the structure of German in comparison with the Spanish. Now we do also have ChatGPT and we have internet. So for example, how many tenses does Spanish have? Okay. Which are the most useful words? You can Google that. But it must be the correct one. Because if you pick the wrong book, the wrong teacher, and if you ask something that it's not really good to ChatGPT, perhaps you will just get confused. So you must be kind of picky in this topic. And finally, the step number 6 is a full immersive atmosphere. What do I mean with that? You need to start reading, listening, writing, and speaking. So, look for a nice book or comics. If you like comics, you can get a comic in that target language, something that really inspired you. But it must be something that you can handle with. What do I mean? If it's a really complex topic, it's better to get something easier at the beginning. The same with movies. If the movie is a really complicated movie, the topic, the main argument is not that easy to understand, try with children movies. When you start listening, it is really good when you find songs that you actually like. And if you can start singing, it doesn't matter if you start doing karaoke by your own at home, but that is wonderful. You will start putting inside your head words, vocabulary, expression, and everything. And it is really, really important to find people to practice with. There's a lot of apps on internet where you can find native speakers. So you can write them a really nice message. Hello, my name is whatever it's your name. I want to practice this language. Could you help me? But also there are groups on Facebook, perhaps even Instagram, where you can find native speakers. But it doesn't matter if they are native speakers or not. It is important that they have a high level of proficiency in that language. What happens? There are some languages where it's not that easy to find a native speaker. So it's easier to find someone that perhaps they don't speak as their native language, your target language, but if they have a good proficiency, they can help you. And normally, it is a little bit easier to connect with someone that speaks another language just like you. Do not fear talking with people, because I know at the beginning it feels really awkward and you're start doubting about yourself, your own skills. But with time, this changes and things work. Okay, now I invite you to use this 6-step method for learning a language. And I want you to invite you to be brave. Don't be afraid. You don't need to be talent. You don't need to live in another country. You don't need to be a bilingual baby. Nothing like this. Learning languages is just something related with concentration and structure. And if you are willing to learn the proper things and you are willing to practice, it doesn't matter where you're from, what's your mother tongue, but you will learn the language you are wanting to learn. So I invite you to follow this method so you can learn any language. So if you liked my video, please give me a like, subscribe, and write in the comments if you're learning a language, what do you think about this? Or tell me, what do you do for learning a language? I will be gladly to read them. So I hope you will use this for your own benefit, and we will see again. Bye. Take care.